Hello, this is Teddy Reed, and I'm annotating a demo at Infiltrate called Analytics and Scalability in UEFI Exploitation. Oh my! So in this demo, as part of the talk given, we show how you can take UEFI firmware and Trojanize it to include droppers on Windows 7. So the demo includes two Windows virtual machines, one called UEFI Standard, the other called UEFI Trojan, both running inside VMware. So VMware gives us this little ability to edit the EFI ROM that runs for that virtual machine. So if we switch over and take a look at the two VMX files that are running these virtual machines, if we diff them, the only major difference between the two is the Trojanized VMX has a specific EFI64.file name set to a Trojan ROM. So that's a canned example of how you can inject into EFI. You don't have access to edit this VMX file, but we kind of use that to emulate what would happen if you were on a system and you had the ability to flash SPI to write your own UEFI firmware. And in the talk, we demonstrate how that's kind of flexible and scalable, and how even though UEFI and EFI code, firmware code, is very specific to the target, we can generalize that by taking and categorizing every target. So if we parse it with a tool also released in the talk, we can see each file within the UEFI file system. And we can pick one that we want to inject into. In this case, we're going to take the EFI shell. That's not used by the boot process, so we can grab our own EFI file, a CompuTrace file, and push it in there. So I'll tell you in a little bit why we're using CompuTrace as the injection. This isn't the real CompuTrace, we've modified it. So we use this FV injector and a specific GUID, the GUID belonging to EFI shell, to take our Trojan file, that CompuTrace file, and push it into VMware's ROM. So now file 105 has the replace GUID belonging to CompuTrace. And that is running inside the UEFI Trojan VM. Alright, I have to clean out a couple partitions. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I've done this demo a couple times. So just running from a blank slate on both of them. Vanilla, Microsoft, MSDN provided Windows 7 SP1 is going to install, and the CompuTrace binary on the Trojan EFI example is going to drop something onto the file system. So traditionally, CompuTrace drops a binary that phones home and downloads a more feature-filled CompuTrace. In this example, we've taken their exact dropping routine to drop a meterpreter. And later I'll show you how in Metasploit you can use a new module to generate that dropped meterpreter or payload of your choice. So in the standard, go ahead and name that PPP and then some random text. There's no real reason why I picked that. However, in the UEFI Trojan one, I'm going to go and say GGG, so later when I call home with my handler, you can verify that that's actually the machine. Standard setup, not going to put a key in here, not going to attach it to a network, don't want updates. I'm going to blow these away in a couple seconds, so don't worry about any of those options. Now, since these are vanilla Windows 7, they're not going to have the Trojan file that's dropped by CompuTrace unless they're running CompuTrace, or in this example, the Trojan CompuTrace. So that CompuTrace dropper, and why we're leveraging that, is because it kind of enumerates partitions at boot at UEFI time and looks for /Windows/System32. If it finds it, it patches a file called autocheck.exe to drop another file in /Windows/System32 called rpcnetp. So if we search in the standard install of Windows, the one that wasn't Trojanized, we should not see rpcnetp.exe. Though the contrary to that, if we look in the Trojan one, Windows System 32, we should see that file. So not only do that see that file, but the modification created timestamp on that should be the most recent reboot, the most recent time that UEFI ran while that file didn't exist. So that time is going to be right now. So what do we do with that file? Well, let's switch over to Kali. I have Metasploit running already, and I'll show you what that Sub-Zero persist module look like? It's a post-exploitation module, so you have to imagine you're already root on the system, and now you want to inject a payload into UEFI. So you go out and grab an update for that system using Sub-Zero and specify a payload from Metasploit with some options, generate that, run it on the system. Then later, alright, I'm going to start up a default handler here with an IP port. Assume that I already have generated that UEFI Trojan ROM for the VM that's running in the Trojan VMX. And then we take advantage of another thing that CompuTrace gives us, which is registering that exe to run with a service also called RPC-NetP. So if that service starts on Windows, and I'll help Windows out a little bit by starting it for it, it's going to run that exe, and in our case, it's going to start Interpreter, and it's going to phone back to this handler. And there's a little verification that I just did this right now. You know, it wasn't that canned, though I did speed up a lot of this video to help it out. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. And if you don't mind, check out the talk, check out the presentation.